They call me Squirrel.
What's going on, Squirrel Squad? It's your boy, the Squirrel. Today I've got a piece that was recommended to me from user YU9UW8WO90. That was the name anyway, and this was on, I believe it was on the food video that I just did about why food is disgusting in America. And they said, have you seen why you can't buy Dasani water in Britain? I haven't seen that, so I looked it up, I saved it. And now I'm going to watch it and find out, because I'm pretty curious to know, why can you not buy Dasani water in Britain? I know Dasani is made by Coca-Cola, I believe, or I think they still own it. I don't know. I'm pretty sure that they owned it at one point. I'll be honest, Dasani, I mean, water is supposed to be water, right? I mean, it's also supposed to be odorless, colorless, tasteless, all that good stuff. And it's supposed to be just pure, clean, good for the body, all that great stuff. When I first met my wife, she was like on this Dasani kick. She loved Dasani. She didn't drink it anymore, and she just drinks water. She doesn't, not very particular. But back then, she was, for whatever reason, she was particular with Dasani, and I didn't like it. It had like this metallicness to it. It was like the one water that had like a fucking weird flavor. I don't know what it was, but anyways, and I've tried it again since then, and I was like, no, it tastes fine. So I don't know, maybe it was just me. I don't even know, but I used to not like Dasani, but I have no idea. This probably has nothing to do with the video, but I just want to let you know that, just because some odd little thing that I could share with you. So let's get into this odd video here of why you can't buy Dasani water in Britain. This is going to be crazy. I can't imagine. All right, let's do it. I don't know.
The bottle of Dasani, Coca-Cola's brand of bottled water. It is basically Coke without the syrup. Like most American bottled water, it is tap water that's been purified and then had tiny amounts of minerals deliberately added back into it. Except...
Yeah, see, over here, there's distilled water and then there's spring water. I don't know how it is around the world, but in America. So when we buy water, if we buy distilled water, it's basically just like he's saying, tap water, they add some minerals, whatever. You know, but those are the waters that are $2, $3.99 now, $3.99. So it's $4 for 40 bottles. It's a 40 pack that you can get. They're right here next to me, and it's just purified water, same thing, tap water, but that's it. 40 packs though, 40 packs for $4, at 10 cents a bottle. And I know it's a lot of plastic waste. I don't want to hear it. I know. It's just for convenience, though. For like on the road, we don't go to work, whatever. We grab them. It's just for grab and go. If we're at home, we have water in the fridge in a filtered gimmick, and we have a filter on our tap. So,
not quite. This is a British Dasani bottle from 2004, which is the first and last time that you could ever buy Dasani water in the UK. And the story of why it failed here is one of the greatest marketing disaster stories in history. But it wasn't until I started searching through newspapers and TV shows from 2004, that I found that the tale is a little more complicated than I thought. A little more complicated than a lot of the world thought. And it starts years earlier. Through most of the 1980s, bottled water was something expensive that got ordered at fancy restaurants, and it was only by the early 90s that it had started to become a thing that everyday people might want to buy. On Christmas Day, 1992, British sitcom Only Fools and Horses made fun of that trend by having its main character, lovable rogue Del Boy, sell tap water from South London as Peckham Spring bottled water. It's a slow and old...
No, I just got to say something real fast. I know that I know. You're just a reactor. You just sit on your ass. I get it. Whatever, it's fine. But, you know, when I'm out doing anything, you know, I record shorts, or if I'm recording things for whatever, whatever it may be, I try to make sure that people are going to be able to understand what I'm saying and hear me. That little puffy microphone's not doing you justice with this busy road. Why couldn't you walk through a park talking about this? My goodness, dude.
Fashion comedy by today's standards, and the episode is really weirdly paced. You're 2/3 of the way through before anyone actually starts bottling water. But because it was the Christmas Day episode in 1992, back when most British households only had 4 channels of television, that show was watched by more than 20 million people, more than 1/3 of the entire British population. And the final joke of that episode is that the water is contaminated by some chemical barrels that Del Boy dumped in a local pond in the first act. It is, to be fair, a brilliant closing gag, and it's one that stuck in the British psyche. The BBC reran the episode another 5 times in the years after. It'll have been on cable and satellite channels many more times than that. I would guess that by 2004, when Dasani launched, about half of the country, maybe more, could understand Peckham Spring as a reference, or at least remember that time Del Boy tried to bottle tap water. Now, under UK law, mineral water is a protected term. Mineral water must come from a certified underground spring. It must not be chemically treated in any way, and it's generally under heavy regulation. And back in 2004, the perception was that bottled water meant mineral water. Why else would you buy it? It's something you can't get at home. Over in America, though, the home of Coca-Cola, the perception of bottled water was that it was just that. It's water in a bottle. You were paying for the convenience and the taste, and it didn't really matter whether that came from the ground or from a water purification factory. To be fair, there are large parts of America where the tap water...
People would drive by, this guy's walking really slow. What do you think he's talking about?
does not taste or smell good, and their federal standards aren't great, particularly compared to Europe. And anyone who has
at least a half of you right now are like, wow, he really is walking slow.
ever taken a vacation to Disney World, for example, will know that the tap water around Orlando can smell a little sulphury. But in the UK, the perception was different. You were buying mineral water because it was natural. It had been filtered through rocks for eons. It was classier and fancier and perhaps healthier than what came out of your tap. That's rubbish.
I just want to mention something real quick. Interesting that he mentioned Disney World, and I'll tell you why. Florida is, and I think the reason why is because they're like at sea level, or yeah, they're right at sea level, or just a foot or two below, above, whatever it is. You can't do much in Florida. You dig too far and you hit in water. It's not so. In Florida, there's not a lot of natural springs. I'm sure there's areas that have them, but so in Florida, they collect and they reclaim the water. So, yes, they reclaim the water. It goes through filtration, blah, blah, blah. Oh, yeah, the sulfury fart smell? Absolutely. And I'm not sure exactly, when we lived in Florida, our water stunk like farts coming out of the thing, and I was always told, oh, it's reclaimed water, but it's clean, they clean it, blah, 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 but it stinks. He's absolutely right. But that's a Florida thing. I've been to many states. This is a Florida thing, and I think it has to do with the sea level, and that's why they have to reclaim the water, because there's not a lot of springs or whatever. But it's interesting because he mentioned that, and that's a very specific thing in that area, actually.
Of course, we have some of the safest tap water in the world, and did back then too, but advertising is powerful, and the idea was that bottled water was filtered and pure straight from the earth. It was somehow better. Coca-Cola were trying to introduce an American-style filtered tap water to a British mineral water market. Now, they were not lying about their water. Their marketing didn't use the phrase tap water. They preferred purified water, but they weren't lying. It says on the back of the bottle, their process precisely delivers pure, still water. The public might have assumed it was mineral water, but Coca-Cola never said that. In fact, what they had done is spend a long time with focus groups, taste testing and refining the mineral balance and the flavour of the water, making a version of Dasani that was ideal for the British palate. Dasani launched with the first stage of what was going to be a £7 million advertising campaign on February 10th, 2004, and it went okay. For weeks, the British public either didn't notice or didn't care that it was tap water, the same way Americans don't seem to care. There were occasional rough patches for the launch, like shop...
I knew. We all know. We just, the spring water is a lot more expensive. If you could afford the spring water, you get the spring water. If you need convenience, you need a bottle of water to go, you either use a refillable water bottle or you grab these stupid things. I don't even know how Dasani, like these people that, I'm not one of these guys. I will never walk into a store and pay $1.50, $2 for, this is ridiculous. That bottle of Dasani is like $2.69 for a 20-ounce bottle of water. And these people are still making it because the way he kind of just dismissed it, like Americans don't know or don't care. There's enough of them that don't. He's absolutely right. I hate to hear that, but it's so true though. Like he's actually right. Like a lot of us do know. It's not everybody, but I mean, for the price they're getting for it, people are dumb enough they're still buying it for tap water. That's what I mean. That's why I buy this 40 for $4, 10 cents a bottle, $2.79 a bottle, and people are buying it.
In Buxton, a town famous for its mineral water, complaining about being forced by their contracts with Coca-Cola to replace bottles of the local water in coolers with Dasani. Or the regulators launching an investigation into whether Coca-Cola should be using the word pure on the label. But on the whole, it went okay. A lot of articles written more recently claim that Coca-Cola's first blunder was copying an American Dasani slogan, "Can't live without spunk," which has a very different meaning in the UK. But I don't think that's true.
It has the same meaning over here, pal. But it has two meanings. The other meaning is spunk, like you're spunky, you're funky, you're kind of full of energy, you're full of life. But we have the other meaning too.
The only actual evidence I could find of that slogan is a screenshot on one tech news website that liked innuendo. Looks like a web designer reused some American ad images in one part of a Flash-based website that almost no one saw. No other article from the time, that I can find anyway, mentions that slogan at all. You know, the advertising was put together by Coca-Cola's UK division. They're not stupid. In fact, the advertising team was probably breathing a sigh of relief. All things considered, the launch had been successful. And then it all went wrong. Very, very quickly. Exactly 3 weeks after launch, March the 2nd, most of the major British newspapers simultaneously put out big stories announcing that Dasani was bottled tap water. Most of them mentioned that episode of Only Fools and Horses, and all of them made a lot of noise implying that it was a rip-off, although perhaps they didn't put it in quite so few words. And back when a lot of people actually read physical newspapers, front page news saying that your product is a rip-off does make a big difference to sales. But why was it suddenly news everywhere at the same time after 3 silent weeks? The missing piece of the puzzle is one journalist called Graham Hiscott, who worked for the Press Association. And as he tells it, as part of a brilliant half-hour documentary made later that year, he happened to be flipping through an issue of The Grocer, an industry magazine, at work one day. And, you know, that's an event that the documentary asked him to recreate for some reason. Now, The Grocer is an ideal source for journalists looking for the next story about a product recall.
I love stupid things in television. He just pointed one out. He's so right. That's something they asked him to recreate for some reason. Yeah. So they're like, pretend like you're reading this again. He's like, oh yeah, sure. And they're recording him doing it. He's so right. We see so much cheesy shit like this in news all the time, and most people just dismiss it as, oh, okay, you know. It's like watching something, you know, like these like reality shows, you know, like, oh, is it really a reality show? Because let me tell you something. If I'm telling Steve that I'm going to punch Jim in the face and I'm going to, you know, screw his old lady or whatever it may be that happens on these stupid reality shows, I'm not doing it with a camera right there so that everyone's going to know, right? Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's the same thing, though. These recreations, the stuff that we see on TV, we're so trained to just accept it, you know? Like this guy, like, oh, he was reading through the magazine, then they show him doing it. Like, come on.
Or a weird marketing strategy. And that issue of the magazine had a feature on bottled water. And there was just one line in one article describing Dasani as a mineral-enhanced treated tap water, which, when written so clearly, seemed odd. So Graham called Coca-Cola and they said, yes, yeah, Dasani is treated tap water from the main supply at their bottling plant, right there, in Sidcup, South London, 10 miles from Peckham, where that episode of Only Fools and Horses was set. A few hours after that phone call, there was an article on the Press Association Newswire about where Dasani came from. Articles on the Newswire don't usually go straight to the public, they go to other journalists first who can use them or adapt them. And the editors at most of the newspapers correctly decided that yes, this was something their readers would be interested in.
Jeez.
6 months earlier, when Coca-Cola was setting out preparations for their Dasani launch, The Grocer had run a small article about it. And there's a line in there that's prophetic. One senior buyer warned that some consumers may be put off by the water's lack of provenance. And now, Coke bottles tap water for 3,000% markup was on the front pages. But Coca-Cola and Dasani soldiered on. That didn't kill the brand. They put more marketing budget behind it. They gave away free bottles in supermarkets. Another article in The Grocer from back then quotes Coca-Cola's UK marketing director. There cannot be many people who do not know about Dasani now. I cannot imagine how much we would have had to spend to get that level of awareness. There is a theory that there's no such thing as bad publicity, after all.
Sure,
the final nail in the coffin was the contamination. They'd had a bad batch of calcium chloride delivered right here. It's one of the chemicals they use in the purification process, and tests revealed that their water contained above the legal limits of bromate, a cancer-causing chemical. There wasn't anywhere near enough in the water to do harm, but there was enough that it was outside the legal limits. So within 24 hours, every unsold bottle was recalled back here, and the shelves were empty. Just like Del Boy, not only had Coca-Cola sold tap water in a bottle, but they sold contaminated tap water in a bottle. Dasani never returned to shops. never launched in France or Germany like they were planning, and to this day, if you type Dasani into Google UK, you get results about the disaster. News reports from 2004 on the first page. Coca-Cola launched other water brands, of course, but as far as I can tell, they all look to be spring waters or mineral waters. They're not hooking up a purifier to the tap. Not over here. There are other folks selling purified tap water, of course, but that's usually the cheap option on the shelf.
Okay, so you do have both over there. All right, that comes out here toward the end. So it is happening now, because at first he was kind of like poo-pooing the whole idea, but apparently they do it. Yeah, it is a cheap option, you know. But we have the cheap option in two forms. We have it in 10-cent bottles and $3 bottles, and it all depends on how smart you are.
Not that it matters. It's all just water. And I reckon Coca-Cola could absolutely have made this work. Maybe they still could. There is a world in which one journalist didn't use the words tap water, or another journalist didn't happen to look at one particular article, and where the launch went just fine, and Britain got used to the fact that drinking bottled, purified...
Yeah, I don't think so much, though. I mean, in a world where the guy didn't look at the article, they still would have gotten that bad batch of shit and contaminated the water. The contamination's what killed him. I mean, it seems like he even said that. Like they capitalized on the bad publicity and it made him bigger. The contamination's what got him. It has nothing to do with that article, I wouldn't say. I mean, I'd say the article helped him, if anything. So, harken back to that, I don't know.
Tap water could be normal. After all, if it had been a popular brand, no one would want to admit that their purchases might be questionable. It's a lot easier to just say, yeah, that's fine, of course, I know it's tap water, than go, hang on, I've been paying how much for what? And worry that you might have been ripped off. I don't think the Dasani disaster was inevitable, but it happened. And all that's left, 16 years later, is a few bottles like this.
Wow. Things you might not know. I like this channel. This is kind of cool. I'm going to have to go and see if there's any other cool things over there we can check out. But that was an interesting piece. Yeah. Oh, there's an article. There's this video that comes up. It's 15-year-old UK Dasani tap with Tom Scott. They're tasting this bottle, I guess. Wow. Listen. First of all, a good piece by this guy. The road thing makes sense in the end because he wanted to do it near the company. He was walking slow. It was a little annoying, but he was doing it so that he could... I understand it all now. He was trying to get the right shot, so when he was like, and they do it here, and the factory was in the right spot. So he did it. He nailed it. He got it lined up right. It was just awkward leading up to it a little bit. For me, just because I was watching it, like, why is this guy walking so slow? Why is he next to a loud road? Okay, so some points I made during the video that he kind of clarified at the end. So first of all, number one, we're not all idiots, but there are a lot of idiots over here that will pay $3 for a bottle of this shit still. Most of us idiots are buying 40 for $4 at the Walmart or BJ's or whatever. I hate Walmart. I hate them with a passion. But this is Wellesley Farms, actually. This is BJ's, I believe, right? Yeah, this is BJ's Wholesale Club. So BJ's is the competitor to Sam's Club, and Sam's Club was started by Sam Walton, who started Walmart. So this is actually BJ's. That's good. I hate Walmart. I try not to go to Walmart for anything. It's inevitable sometimes because there's no other stores around. So unless you want to wait for it to come from Amazon, if you need something right away, like yesterday, me and my son ran to Walmart because we needed to buy a gift for a birthday party he was going to today. So see, it does happen. But anyways, interesting article. So user 5738953UM3. I don't even know. Sorry, that's the only name that would show me. Was just user whatever. So if you actually have a name, I apologize. But thank you for pointing me this way. Tom Scott has 6.18 million subscribers on his YouTube channel. Gosh, Tom, congratulations, man. You're kicking ass. I'm just trying to check out his channel, see if there's anything else on here. Who knows? Anyways, this is from a few years ago, I think. When did he put this up? It's got 11 million views 3 years ago. Yeah, all right, makes sense. All right, well, listen, tell me what you think. You know, I mean, you know, did you know that there's tap water still in the UK on the shelves? Of course you did, right? I mean, I think everybody knows that. I think maybe some people don't understand that purified water or still whatever. What's the other one they call it? There's a few different names for it. That really is just purified tap water. You know, spring water is what you need if you want to get real fresh water from the earth. So. Anyways, I thought it was kind of neat. I didn't know that was banned over there, but it makes sense why. Again, the article was not the catalyst, I don't think. It sounds to me like the article, the bad publicity part, might have helped them a little bit. it was that bad batch of shit they got, you know? Hey, bad batch of shit. It happens. It's not good. Not smart. Anyways, it's Coca-Cola. They overprice everybody for everything they sell, so they make zillions of dollars. They can afford it. Screw them. That's all I got. You guys be good. I'll talk to you later. Scroll out.